Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of the Rich Cheese Radio Podcast, your place for horological hot takes, taboo topics, and often unpopular watch opinions. My name is Schmidt, and as always, I am joined by my good buddy, my friend. You guys know him, you love him, Mr. Rodinky. Bro, what is going on, my friend?
It's an exciting time of year, specifically as I don't know what you'd call me, a humorous watch content creator. This is all right. If you want to be professional about it,
meme lord of all meme lords. That's my title for you for sure.
This is Christmas for me. This is my big week. This is what I live for. This is what I get to take a stab at anybody because
all bets are off.
This is the big stage. All bets are off, and if you slip up, you're going to be Chris Rock at the Oscars.
Oscars, yeah.
I don't pay attention to that stuff.
It's all good. You didn't miss anything. There was a slap. Somebody got mad, and now there's thousands of memes about it. So it's fine. Yeah. It's whatever.
I did not put one of those up because I don't like to be too meta.
Yeah, there you go.
You gotta. It's almost like I'll give Rolex credit for this, right? They don't do meta. When people think they're gonna zig, they zag. I'll give them credit for that. I kind of follow the same angle.
You got to go against the grain a little bit. You got to be a little bit different. And I'll say today is a different podcast episode for us because we will jump today on the horological bandwagon and talk about watches and wonders, as you guys probably would have guessed. But I don't know, bro. Maybe we can get some more into this, but I'm not at all impressed. What do you think?
I've heard a lot of mixed reviews so far, and personally, I'm a little underwhelmed.
Yeah.
I thought there are some bright spots, as there should be, considering who's there. But I don't think across the board I was wowed too much, especially because this is the first show back in a while. And probably a lot of these watches have been in the till for years, I would think. Because if you were going to debut stuff in 2020, you stashed that. And then even last year, do you really want to pull out your big guns for a year where you're not going to be able to display things in person and you're not going to be able to get the same appeal to your audience because you're not going to have all those publications present? No. So I would think you're holding those off. I mean, not that we haven't had anything good in the past 2 years, but if I'm a company, I'm saving it for now. This is my time to shine.
Yeah.
And a couple of people did that. A couple brands did do that. Now I will give them credit as we go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's certainly some gems, some diamonds in the rough, if you will, and some things that certainly surprised me from brands that I would have not have been thinking to have been surprised by. But overall, overarchingly for me, I felt like things were a little bit lackluster. And I think you said it correctly. This is the first in-person show in more than 2 years since the beginning of the pandemic. And I was expecting this to just be crazy releases from everywhere, from everyone, technology, new material advancements, all of these things wrapped into one. And I felt like some brands maybe missed the mark a little bit, but we're gonna get into that. So let's start off. Let's just jump right into it then.
Well, I wanted to hit before we got to official Watches and Wonders stuff. Someone who's not there, who did drop right around the same time. Zinn put out some stuff recently
that's right.
Also have some pretty mixed reviews because I think a lot of people think Zinn kind of moved to the beat of their own drum a little bit. And I love the 556, but they went right with the Rolex playbook. Pastel blue, a bright red, green, yellow. I mean, you didn't get a pink or anything, but I don't know. It was very un-Zinn to me. They are runs of only 400 pieces.
Yeah, it's a small production.
Yeah, but it just felt very uncharacteristic for them, for me.
Well, and it felt, I mean, obviously there's a color trend going on right now in the watch industry,
Certainly
right? Before the last couple of years, there was a specific color or a specific, one or two colors that everyone was kind of pulling from. Yes. And now it's just like all colors. Doesn't matter what it is. We're going to do a production run with colors. I mean, obviously you saw this with the OPs. That kind of started the trend. You saw this kind of mirrored with Omega as well, which some people liken that to the same type of thing. I would agree that there's certainly some inspiration there, but the dial finishings are vastly different. But the Zin is a little bit more flat. It's more in line color spectrum wise with the OPs.
Yeah, definitely.
And as Zin as a brand that normally does do different things, I was surprised by it a little bit. And I think the other aspect of it as well is collectors were a little bit upset because I think this model is technically more expensive than the standard model, is what I gathered. I'm not a huge Zen guy, but that's kind of what I was feeling out there. And it's just some of these people were really for it. A lot of kind of the diehard purist Zen fans were just like, this is just not it.
But one that they did also drop that probably pleased the diehards, they dropped a U50 with a blue dial that looks sick.
Yes,
I think it's black PVD. It looks pretty great. And if I'm a big Zen person, I'm all over that. It's also limited. I think it's 1,000 pieces. I think it's 1,000 total, 500 strap, 500 bracelet. But whole deal, full tegiment.
It looks fantastic.
That's going to be a sick watch.
And it remind me again, is it like a blue camo on the dial, or it's got like a textural effect or something like that?
I want to say it's got a blue gradient. A blue, it almost fades out as it goes outwards. Almost like that.
Okay.
That sort of like fume look.
Got it. I only saw a quick snapshot when I was scrolling through.
But the contrast of the white markers is phenomenal, just because all the other colors are so dark.
Yes, you're right. It is a gradient dial. Yeah. So it starts out as dark blue, and it looks like it fades out to kind of a black on the periphery. So it's basically like a fume dial. It's honestly good looking.
Yeah, I thought so.
And I think for a lot of people, this probably made up for the colored 556s. But no, I think this is really a home run for them. They don't do a lot of big, crazy pieces.
Right.
They like to stay in their lane a lot, which is cool. It's obviously giving them that cult following, but I think this is kind of cool. It's a little bit out of left field, but it looks great. It really does look good from a dive watch standpoint. I like it. And then I guess speaking outside of Watches and Wonders, since we jumped in with Zen, Breitling, they also had their launch as well, kind of right before Watches and Wonders as well.
Yeah, it was early.
Yeah. So old Papa Kern was out there flying a plane, debuting the new Navitimers. I can't imagine he was actually flying it, but maybe he was. I don't know. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a neat way to showcase a new collection for all of the press. It was basically a flight. Instead of drinks and food, they started wheeling around Navitimers on
that was pretty cool.
The beverage cart, which I think is an innovative idea. I think it's a really cool way to connect the launch of the Navitimer and the 70th anniversary of this collection. It's an iconic chronograph for a reason, and I do, again, talking about colorful dials. Yep. I do like the new Navitimer colors. I was a little sad that there wasn't that many color options in the 41.
Yeah.
Because the new sizes are 41, 43, and 46, I think, respectively. And really only 43 and 46 got the cool color treatment.
They did.
As what I remember seeing. So not to say that there's not any cool colors in the 41. It's just, your basic. I think it's black, the white and black, and I think a blue and black.
I think that's right.
Is the colors. But now they all have the BO1. So it's a new version, or I should say a new rotored version of the BO1. But now it's available across the entire spectrum instead of just the 43 and 46 or 44, whatever the older size was. So it's cool. I think that the people are going to be happy with this collection. I would have loved to see a new generation movement, in my opinion. But I think a lot of people are also happy that there's fun colors in this new line. I really like as much as it's a basic thing for me to say, like the Glacier Blue.
It looks good on that watch. Though.
I think it looks good, especially with the panda look. I think it looks very sharp. There's the copper color. It's like a salmon-y kind of color. I think it looks good as well. And then there's like the light green.
Yep.
All of them I think are fantastic. I think it was a good choice for Breitling, and this is a capsule release for them. We know there's probably going to be more stuff coming later on down the pipe, But it was cool, and they brought back the AOPA logo, which I think a lot of purists really will appreciate. To kind of bring back that and underscore that 70th Breitling Association, since that was kind of what it was when it first launched. So, kudos to Breitling. Like their stuff. Like I said, my only gripe is I wish it would be a new movement. The BO1's a little bit old at this point. So, what do you think?
I liken Breitling a little bit to what we were just talking about with Zinn. It always kind of struck me as a serious brand.
Yeah.
And I guess that's partly due to kind of who I picture buying and wearing Breitling. We're always like, I don't know. I felt like it was when I got into watches, it was like older dudes who either had passions for aviation or for military. It just seemed like a very serious brand, right? It was all about engineering and like that, their provenance. And now they're kind of fun, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And you're seeing even a lot more women get into Breitling now because of that. And I think that's a nice match for them now. They're making a lot more women's aesthetic watches or sizing, or just even more friendly across the board as far as wrist sizes and things, and different colors you might want to wear and different finishes. Like those Navitimers, it's like a sunray finish on those, right? It's not flat. It's an exciting watch to look at.
There's a dynamic to it for sure, and it's visually pleasing. Absolutely.
So I really like what they've been doing. I think they're definitely making strides forward, and we've been giving them props the whole time, and I think they deserve it. I think they were a brand that constantly got flack for being a little stagnant, for resting on its laurels, for making kind of the same stuff,
and a little bit hyper masculine as well with advertising and things like that. So there was kind of a lot for George Kern to really get in and kind of fix when he first jumped into Breitling. So I think it's all good. I mean, I don't have really a bad thing to say about what they've been doing. They really have been, quote unquote, staying the course, and I think that they're listening more to their collectors. They're certainly pulling more and more from their heritage department. I know they work a lot with that gentleman, I think is like Watch Fred or something like that, who's like the preeminent Breitling collector in the vintage world. And he consults with them a lot on releases for new stuff. So you have somebody that really has, the ear to the street, if you will, to get the feedback out there. And I think it's been paying off in a big way for them. So good for them.
So I guess it's time to jump in then, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be an ugly dart pool. So let's jump in. So I know we kind of talked about this offline about who we wanted to start out with, and I think we got to start out with our boys with the Shield, our good friends at Tudor. So tell me what you think about the Tudor launches, because I have a lot of opinions here.
I do too, and I think people will understand because I've expressed how much I really do enjoy both the history and the heritage models of this brand, and even a lot of their modern stuff. I've had a Pelagos, I've had a GMT, etc., etc.
And not just a Pelagos, like that was the watch that launched you into watch collecting.
So I have a soft spot for what they can do, and that watch really, for me, showed me what they are capable of.
Right.
What they're capable of putting into a complete package, and made me passionate about them, and it made me think. I know that they are Rolex's little brother, but really they could be a sky's the limit type of company.
Absolutely.
Leading up to this release, I don't know. I really don't know where to place them anymore. Like I feel like I'm starting to get disconnected from them, and the way I explained it that didn't seem to resonate with a lot of people is that I feel like they are now just becoming. We are going to release the models that you cannot get from Big Brother, and people said, "Well, isn't that what they've always been?" And I said, no, because historically, Rolex models were not hard to get aside from being cost prohibitive. Obviously, now they're hard to get. In addition to that, Tudor had its very own language a lot. Like, not just people said, oh, well, they released a Submariner also. Isn't that just kind of like a running joke? And I'm like, no, right? Like, I know that they had Rolex branded stuff like case backs and crowns and things on their watches, but like the Oyster prints, if you go back and look at all the different Oyster prints models, there are ones with like pink dials and different textures and things that you would never get on a Datejust.
Yeah.
Right? The Snowflake, the Monte Carlo with the home plate indices, like there are so many great Tudor models if you actually take the time to go back and look. And that's not to say Rolex doesn't have those. They obviously do, and they have so many obscure ones on their own also. But there was a clear delineation between the two. And now I just feel like, well, you can't get you can't get root beer GMT and Rolex. Here it is in Tudor. And I'm just underwhelmed. And not only that, but it seems like they really just don't. I don't want to say they don't take into account what the watch looks like, but it doesn't jive. Like the tone of gold that they use,
colors are so bad. They're really bad
with the brown and black on the bezel. It really I don't like it.
And it's not even like, to me, it just looks like a faded Pepsi. Like that's honestly what it looks like. It just looks like a horrible shade of blue and a horrible shade of red. It's almost brown, and it looks like old dirty Pepsi. Like that's all I get from it. And I know it's supposed to be more of a root beer model, but there's just, to me, there's no like elegance about it at all.
There's not.
It's
very unrefined. Is the way
it's so like tarnished looking and sad, and it's just like, man, when I think about the original root beers, that was a gorgeous watch. I'm not a big Rolex person, like at all, and you guys know that. I've echoed this before. I respect the brand for what they are and what they can do, and the fact that they have created so many advancements in technology over the years of watchmaking. They don't really do that anymore, but that's a side story. But the original root beer, the old school nipple dial root beers, are just like they're gorgeous watches, because that was a funky era of design, technology, and aesthetic for Rolex, right? It was the 60s and the 70s. They had Singer dial Daytonas. They had, the Steve McQueen Explorers. They had the root beer nipple dials. Like they were doing funky stuff that was still elegant and still refined. This, whatever the hell that is the complete polar opposite of it. And you're right. It's, hey, let's just make a watch that nobody can get from Rolex, and we'll just offer it in a, great valued version in Tudor. That's essentially what it is. And it's really sad, because you and I talked about this as well. When Tudor launched back in 2012, back in the US, after about 8 or 9 years of not being sold here, the Black Bay was the launch for Tudor.
Yeah.
That is what put Tudor on the map for all collectors in the United States and woke everyone up. They're like, okay, who's Tudor and why are they relevant all of a sudden? Everyone wants, like, I remember when everyone wanted a Burgundy Black Bay.
Yep.
That was a launch that literally everyone wanted. And yes, it had some similarities to other watches in the past, but it was truly its own watch. It was 41 millimeters. It had a burgundy bezel. It had the Tudor Rose logo. It was vintage but modern. It had the
smiley dial.
The smiley dial, yep. Rotor, like it was all of these things wrapped up into one thing, and it looked fantastic. It still looks fantastic. But that Tudor design language is dead. Like, let's just think of it this way. If Tudor didn't launch the Burgundy in 2012, they wouldn't even exist, because everything that they have built since then has been based on that Black Bay. Okay.
I mean, they've axed all their other models, right? The Ranger's no more. The North Flag is no more. The Heritage Chronos, which are, I think, underrated.
The Advisor, which is one of my personal favorite Tudors of all time. It's a mechanical alarm, for God's sakes. And like, it gets no love. It's still technically on the website in this obscure search parameter. Like, you can find all these on the website, but nobody carries these watches. You're not finding them in the wild at ADs, really. And if you do, it's not a watch that anybody really wants to see. So it's just like, where did that Tudor go? Where did they go? Because the Tudor, I want the Tudor that brought me a North Flag.
Yeah.
Right. I want that Tudor back. I want the Tudor that brought me the Monte Carlo Heritage Chrono.
So good.
I want that Tudor back. Because whatever the hell this Tudor is, they're a shell of themselves. And we already kind of beat the root beer to death, but to focus so heavily on S&Gs, I mean, all of the new
I don't get it.
Black Bay SNGs and Glamour SNGs with diamonds and mother pearl. It's like, man, missing the mark. And then the Black Bay Pro. Like, okay, great. You release a 39 millimeter GMT. Awesome. It is a budget, great value version of the Rolex 1655, the Steve McQueen Explorer. You can't get one of those because they've been sold and discontinued for decades. The secondary market of them is anywhere between $28,000 to $45,000, give or take. And we're just going to release it. And somebody asked this on social media too. What is pro about this watch?
Yeah, there's no exotic materials.
There's nothing. There's no titanium. There's no
master chronometer.
There's no master chronometer. I mean, I thought for sure when they're like, oh, it's a Black Bay Pro. You know, when I woke up to the releases and everything,
you would have thought after the ceramic, they would have flexed that in this too.
Absolutely. If it really is going to be a pro watch, somebody's like, well, what is pro about it? It's stainless steel. It's got a fixed bezel. Okay, it's a GMT. It looks like a 1655. There's nothing pro about it. Nothing.
It makes you want to buy it because it sounds like an Apple product. MacBook Pro.
I also saw that
iPad
comment
Pro.
Too. Somebody mentioned that's what they're going to do next year. They're going to release the Pro Max, and it's going to be the 41 millimeter version.
I had a meme ready to go, and I didn't post it. Sometimes I have a good one, and I just stop because I want to be a respectful person. And it was Steve Jobs holding it up, but like Steve Jobs is dead. So I was like, let me not. I'll put this one back. But like I was laughing at it. You know, he's showing it off like the iPhone. It was pretty funny, but I was like, I'm gonna leave that one be. Respect Steve, R.I.P. But
R.I.P.
Yeah, you know, it's I appreciate what they tried to do. Everybody has always said, oh, if the GMT was in a smaller case, it would be a home run. The problem is something we've talked about previously on here, that they didn't thin it much at all.
No, it's 14.6
aspect ratio. It's a 14.6 millimeter thick watch still, and yes, some of that's in the crystal, and they do some pretty heavy domage. But somebody posted a picture of it side by side with the 58, and it's much massive. Thicker.
And the lugs have to turn down so sharply because of how thick the case is to make that strap integration and everything work. I mean, again, this is going to be the same thing that you complained about with your older GMT.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like the lug spacing becomes so awkward that trying to put straps on it and stuff that's not Tudor designed, it just, you know, it doesn't work right.
And then even the strap that it comes with is not fitted. So you still get the gigantic gap in there, which is atrocious. They did put a cool clasp on it, but I mean, that's the redeemer of it. It has a cool clasp.
and again, you know, for me, when I look at this and I look at all the GMTs that have come out this year so far, I'd buy the Zulu Time from Longines 6 times over for a GMT than this Tudor. Period. I think it's a better watch. It's got newer movement technology, chronometer certification, ceramic bezel. It actually looks really nice. It's elegant, you know, things like that, or it just feels more refined. And I just think that the Tudor just missed the mark.
And you know what's really gonna probably make people mad is now keep in mind I caught a glimpse of this at 3 a.m. I woke up out of a sleep and I just happened to check, and that was when the both the Destro and this were out. My first impression of just glancing at it was I didn't see 1655. I saw P01.
Oh.
I don't know if it was the snow. I don't know if it was the snowflake hands and a similar looking bezel or what, but and maybe it's just the Tudor design language. But I saw P01 at a glance, not 1655.
Yeah, I only know I only constantly think about the 1655 because that's, I think I've maybe shared this story before, maybe I haven't, but that was a Rolex my dad got from his roommate in college.
Wow.
He's like, yeah, just pick it out of the drawer and take it home. And so my dad did. And then there is some family scuttlebutt, and now my dad doesn't own the watch. One of his siblings has it, which is a whole story for a different time. But yeah, somebody who should not own that watch has that watch, and who doesn't know what it is. So there you go.
Good God.
Yeah, I know it's horrible. That's a story for another time. But I mean, think of it this way: the Zulu time on bracelet right now is 3,050 US. The Tudor is 3675 on the straps and 4,000 on the bracelet. Why would I buy the Tudor at almost $1,000 less?
I think they're just hoping that the relation will carry them.
But at some point, people have to wake up and be like, guys, like, this isn't it.
No. You're getting the scraps, is what it seems like at this point. And that's from somebody who likes this brand and has bought many of their watches.
Yeah, I like Tudor. You know, I don't have any disregard for them. I want them to be the creative Tudor that excited me back in 2012. Right now, they are just creatively inept.
Yeah, and even
they are making like I said, they're making the great value version of all the Rolex classics that you can't get.
Even I think John Mayer wrote an article for Hodinkee, and in it he wrote kind of his appreciation that Tudor is where Rolex can have its fun because they're very.
It was the creative outlet,
right? They're held to a certain standard. They're not allowed to go too far off the path, too much Rolex. So Tudor is a great place for them to toy around or experiment or just have fun with a model, and I'm just not getting that anymore.
No,
and I mean not. I don't even think we're going to touch on this, but they also released a Black Bay Chrono with a champagne dial. So what do you do?
And it's got I think gold pushers now. Like ooh yeah, and again, it's just falling into that S&G line. It's just all S&Gs. The Black Bay Pro and the root beer, and it's just sad. It really is sad because, again, I would love to be an executive in those Tudor design conferences and meetings. They're like, all right, guys, what are we going to do this year? I got it. We're going to redo the 1655 and release it in a 39 millimeter case, and the internet will break and we'll be done. Meeting over. We'll see you in Watches and Wonders 2023. Like, that's it. There's no hard work that's going into this. And we also see that echoed with the bigger brother, which we'll get to a little bit later on. So now that Tudor is demolished, bro, what was something that you liked that surprised you that you didn't think you'd see?
I give them a lot of grief. I got to give some love to Tag Heuer. I think they brought a little bit here. They brought a little
I would
fire.
agree. I would agree with you. I was surprised, but I'm happily surprised.
That solar watch, I know not everybody's about solar movements, but I think it's a win. It's a good looking watch.
It just is a good looking watch, man. I mean, price point aside, like, you can't imagine it's going to be very expensive. It is a quartz watch, but it's a high-tech solar quartz. I think the case is stainless or it's PVD or something like that, but the bezel is like carbon forged with superluminova. It glows in like a mosaic way. I mean, to me, that's just cool. Am I in the market for a quartz solar watch from a Swiss brand? No, but I might be now because I like it. It's like when the Night Diver came out. Like, I'm not a huge Tag fan, but they're producing some things that I think that more people are going to want to see and get excited about when they see it in person. I like it. I like it. And they're pushing the envelope, man. They're doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah, orange Aqua Racer, kind of cool.
Yeah, the new Aqua Racer 43 with the orange dial. I like that a lot. I think that's certainly in the vein. They came out with their super diver as well, 1,000-meter diver. And what I didn't know, and that I found this out recently, is that also has a kinesis movement inside of it.
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the super diver is going to have a kinesis movement, which, if you guys know, is the Breitling, Chanel, Tudor movement house that's shared amongst all the brands. And now it's going to be sourcing movements to Tag and still Norcane. So you're seeing more brands that are using this kinesis movement going forward, which will be very interesting if they're going to establish themselves as like the major movement house outside of ETA, which we'll see how that plays out. But to me, that's tag trying to move around. They're trying to move in their space, and they're creating stuff that's innovative at the $2,000 price point. They're making stuff that's a little bit more professional at a higher price point, and I like it. I'm here for it.
Who's another group that you thought did pretty well past couple of days?
I gotta give credit to Grand Seiko. I gotta give credit to Grand Seiko. It's not a brand that I talk about often, just because I'm not a huge GS fan. I know that's kind of more your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, not me.
but I have to give some mad credit to Grand Seiko. I mean, they came out with their Constant Force tourbillon, which just from a pure horological standpoint, one, the watch is absolutely stunning. Like, it just looks awesome. And two, it's a horological tour de force. Like, this is a watch that I did not expect Grand Seiko to release. It's aesthetically gorgeous. It's mechanically insane. And from what I read, this is their first ever grand complication type watch in a Grand Seiko, which is even more impressive. It was a home run for me. Now, I will never own the money to be able to buy a watch like this, nor do I really have the desire to go out and be like, all right, of all the watches in the world, I'm going to buy a Grand Seiko Grand Complication first. Just not going to be the case. But somebody's going to buy that watch. It's going to sell very well to the people that can afford it. And I think it's an absolute banger of a watch. So I'm happy with that.
And it comes in at a millimeter thinner than the Black Bay Pro.
I mean,
with all that,
when you told me that, I couldn't believe it. I had to look it up. It's a millimeter thinner than the Black Bay Pro GMT. And this is a Constant Force tourbillon with a skeletonized movement. How? It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even register that it makes sense. And yet here we are. Right? We also saw some additions now to the Evolution 9 case style for them. I think I got that right. Evolution 9.
Correct.
Good looking watches. They debuted
it in the Birch models. Now they kind of branched out with these spring drive GMTs. I think they look pretty good. I've learned to kind of just reserve judgment for when I see things in person now. I think that's part of maturing as a watch collector. I think you stop looking at specs so much. I mean, they're partly important. Okay, they're not nothing, but they're not
everything either.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I would have to say my favorite of all of them, but this is kind of a double-edged sword for me, so let me explain. I really do like the diver. I'm glad that they were able to bring the size down from over 45 millimeters in some cases to now it's a 43.8 based on the specs. So it's not a small diving watch by any means, but I'd happily wear a Planet Ocean, which is 44 or 45 in some cases, depending on which model you're looking at. But I really love the dial. This black stream, like textural wave pattern, I think is really elegant. I mean, again, it just makes sense for Grand Seiko. They do dials better than anybody else in the world. And it looks really good. This dial, having been in a tropical place where I've seen the ocean at night and done a night dive, this is exactly what the ocean looks like at night. And every time I see it, I'm just immediately remembering that, and I love it. My only hangup, I know it's in titanium, which is fine. It's going to help offset the weight and everything like that. My only hangup is the price, man. It's 11.6, which is literally the exact same price of the brand new Omega Ultra Deep in the Omega Steel on bracelet. Now, I know it's steel versus titanium, but for me, it's a far superior diver in the Omega Steel for literally the same price.
Or like I said, you could get two diver 300 meters for that same price.
Two divers, man.
Two Omega 300 meters.
You could get the new green and the white and black, and it would still be relatively the same price. So it's It's certainly
It's a hard sell at that
it's
price.
certainly a big pill to swallow for sure, price point wise. But other than that, if you can overlook that, if you're a Grand Seiko fan, I think it's a home run. It's a spring drive. It's got the power reserve indication. It's got a date. The dial's insane. It just looks good. But my only hang up is that price.
Well, I think you're onto something here, that it's an indication that Grand Seiko has always been kind of referred to as a bang for buck brand, that you're getting tremendous finishing, tremendous technology in a lot of models, really nice designs, a lot of elegance at a very reasonable price. And I think you are not going to see the reasonable price part for very long.
No.
Right? Even these GMTs, 8,400. That is not cheap. I understand it's a spring drive GMT. A lot goes into it. But, I kind of saw the writing on the wall when I picked up my GS. And I saw what went into those seasons. And I said, I'm gonna grab this up, because I don't know if I'm going to be priced into this brand much longer.
Yeah. I mean, you're in some of these models, you're looking at Omega and Rolex prices in a lot of these models.
I love that Omiwatari. It retails, I think, at 8,300, 83 or maybe even 93, but
it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, you could still get these a little cheaper than their retail, but like I said, I don't know if it's for long.
No, I don't think so. Especially with how small their production numbers really are. I mean, we often think of Grand Seiko as like a big brand, and they are in many aspects. They're certainly expanding.
You hear Seiko, so you assume big production.
Exactly, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this brand is producing very, very, very small quantities of watches annually in comparison to brands like Omega, Breitling, Rolex. It's a very big difference in number.
And I have heard people in different locations globally complain about allocation.
Really?
Not that I've experienced it here, but again, I'm in New York, arguably the biggest metropolitan city in the world,
Yeah.
Somebody who's out in, a rural part of a country I don't know if they have a chance to get a Grand Seiko like that unless they order online.
Yeah. See, I mean, that I can see. I mean, if you're like in a big market, LA, Chicago, Vegas, New York City, you're probably going to have more access to get this. But if you're in Arkansas, good luck. I mean, that's just the way it is. But I know that Grand Seiko is rapidly trying to expand. The only thing that I'm going to see here that I want to see here long term from them is, can they expand and still maintain the quality? Because that's when things start to change.
That is tough.
One thing, when you make 100,000 watches a year annually across all of your models, it becomes an entirely different story when you make 100,000 of one reference.
Yep.
And that's going to be a big challenge. So we'll see.
I mean, how many people can you have Zaratsu polishing stuff by hand, man?
There's only so many master skilled worksmen in the world. So just keep that in mind.
Let me tell you, the craziest thing I heard about that, I was watching Joe Kirk from Grand Seiko Talk one time, and he was saying, I guess, the level of discipline those people have. They don't consume alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, anything that could possibly make your hand shake. They just abstain from, which is crazy. That's the level of care that they put into this mirror finishing and all that. Makes me appreciate it a little more. I understand it's a lot of people think of it as a little bit of a gimmick, but I do appreciate it. Sure. Where you appreciate it a lot? On the case, it's okay. On the bracelets, it's okay. But on the dial furniture, I don't really like that term. Yeah. It sounds kind of corny, but on the dial furniture, you really get that mirror finish. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's where it sings, and obviously that's going to be the areas where you're not going to ding it. You're not going to scratch it.
Yes.
So it just stays immaculate forever, really. Right. So I get that. But that was always my big hang up with the Zaratsu, man. It's so gorgeous the first day you get it. And as soon as you put that dent in it, you're like, hey, LA Watchworks, can you do a laser welding on my case and fix my Zaratsu? Because that's the other thing, too, that people don't know. It's like you got to send that thing back to Japan, and there's only so many skilled Zaratsu polishers in the world. And it's going to take 6 to 8 months. It's a very long time.
And you might have an exotic material case.
Correct. So that's the other hang up for me with Grand Seiko is you're going to wear it, you're going to show it, you're going to send it back, and it's going to be gone for a very, very, very long time before you get it back. So got to give Grand Seiko their credit this time. They did really, really good. They had a good shouting. Like I said, that tourbillon was insane. Oris. What did you think about Oris this year?
It wasn't great in number, but I think they've got a winner on their hands.
Yeah,
they didn't give us too much, but I think they gave us a lot in one package.
Yeah, and they've been trickling stuff out kind of in different releases. Like there was the ski trip earlier this year. There was a couple micro releases kind of throughout the year at the end of last year. So we got some stuff that would kind of be, I guess, considered novelties.
I feel like they're always
for this year
trickling things out, just constantly.
But I gotta say, man, I forget what the official name is.
I think it's
the Pro Pilot X.
PX, yeah.
Yeah, PX.
Which is the same as they have a Pro Pilot X already, which was like the big baller version, the one that the Managers of the Yankees has. But
yes.
I had the pleasure of playing around with that at the last windup, not this year's, the last one before that. And it was cool. It was big, but it's titanium and it has a lot going on. This is a much more simple and I think elegant presentation. Obviously, it's got their new movement in it. I think it's a more than meets the eye kind of thing because it looks like a pretty simple watch looking straight at it. But, I think the bracelet's got a lot of good technology in it. I think obviously that caliber movement is A1 from what everybody has told me. I don't own one personally, but
the caliber is hitting.
Yeah, you got to give them credit where credit's due. They gave you one big fun dial color. It's an interesting pink.
Yeah,
I like
it. Is an interesting pink.
You described it as Pepto-Bismol.
I mean, it kind of
isn't
is,
a knock.
though.
It's not a knock, but it's
no. It's a term of endearment for sure. VJ, if you're listening
to
this,
I think pink bismuth is the generic for Pepto-Bismol. We won't call it Pepto-Bismol.
Pink bismuth. All right, we'll stick with that. But I like the color a lot. I think it's a really fun color palette.
I like it.
It's not a salmon dial at all.
People call it salmon. I don't
think so. It's a little bit lighter than that. It's more of like an Easter pink or something like that. Doesn't matter. I love the color choice, and they launched it with I think 2 additional options. There's kind of like a steel gray dial, and I think like a bluish green. It looks like, or a darker blue.
Like a dark blue.
And these are 39 millimeter cases, so full titanium. All new caliber movement. So it's the caliber 400 with date. It's got that crazy power reserve. I think it's 5 days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And it's going to have some anti-magnetic protection because I know Oris has been factoring that in. And I think a 10-year warranty, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So a lot of great stuff going on from our friends at Holstein. And it's a good launch. I was expecting maybe a little bit more from them in terms of models, but as we mentioned, we kind of had some stuff trickle out, from last year into this year. So I know that this is kind of their big highlight, and I think it's been very well positively received. I love the seatbelt style lift clasp, which I think is kind of cool. We saw that on the original version, but I think this is really cool to see it kind of come into a smaller, thinner, lighter variation, which I think is going to do well for them. So
I think it's a watch you can rotate every other day if you want to and have no qualms,
And you know what? For me, I'd much rather have this Pro Pilot over the Air King.
Yeah.
And that similar design kind of language, man.
You mean those crown guards didn't do it for you?
See, this has crown guards, okay? This has crown guards, all right? And I could actually buy this if I really wanted to. So there's that as well. But if you're looking for kind of that modern-y pilot watch, I think this is, you're hard pressed to find a better option than this. That's not a derivative of a pilot style from something else.
And as often really cool with Oris, especially in this price range.
Absolutely, which they are creeping up, man. This is $4,300. But again, so it's not inexpensive.
Rightfully
but again, it's rightfully so. It's justified. It's new movement technology, new warranty, new materials. All of that makes sense.
Right? Good meat.
They should be moving up. No, I mean, you can stay at $2,800 or $3,000 if you're just going to keep buying Sellita movements for the rest of eternity. I mean, there's a lot of money that goes into movement development, and Oris has taken on that burden. And so you're going to see these prices go up a little bit, but it's justified. All right. It is what it is. These movements are superior to what they were producing in the past. So it's good time that they increase. So anything else that you want to jump into before we get into the nitty gritty?
I did like the whiteout doxes.
Yeah.
Talk about a brand that
Man.
zigs when people zag, right? Docs is known as like one of those rainbow type brands going
Yes.
straight up white party, especially the carbon with the loom dial.
It's insane.
That's a good looking watch.
I'm not like a white like dial person per se, and it's certainly not on a white strap, but I would immediately put that on a black rubber integrated, which I know they carry for the sub 300 case, and just do that white full loom, black carbon case, black rubber strap. That is a sick watch.
And they also give you a 600, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole line. So
yeah.
they did the I think it's was it the white pearl collection now. They have it in the sub 300 carbon.
Yep.
They have it in the 600, the T version, and then I think they also have it in the 1500. I think is the model. I can never remember all of them because for me my favorite is the sub 300. So I don't. You know what? They did do it already in the sub 200.
Yeah, I knew that.
That was the first one that did the white pearl. So this is just now a line extension. So they have the sub 300 carbon, the sub 300 T, which is what you were talking about.
Yep.
Then there's a standard sub 300, then the sub 600 T, and then the one I was talking about, the sub 1500 T. So all of those are available with white dials, with black hands, but the only one that has the fully loomed dial, to my knowledge, is the carbon version, which I think is a very, very good looking watch. And like you said, when everyone zigs, they zag. I mean, everyone's like, all right, guys, we're going to have full colors. And Docs is like, hey, man, we've been doing that since 1969. We're going white. and you gotta commend them, man. It's certainly a good looking watch for sure. So
yeah, and when I saw it, I immediately thought of Catlin and her white PO.
I don't know if she still has it,
but either way, shout out to Catlin.
Yeah,
Cat.
A good friend at 10 and 2. Plug in 10 and 2 right there for you. No, I think it's a great watch, and certainly, you know, with the price points and everything like that, it's certainly a good looking watch to be able to pick up. It's just under 4,000 for the carbon, which I think is a solid price point, and the steel versions will be obviously less than that. So, to all my Doxa fans out there, you know where my sensibilities lie. I think this is a solid choice from that brand. So, that said, anybody else?
All right, let's just do honorable mentions before we get into anything heavy. The VC222, like it.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Real nice. I mean, never afford it, but hey.
I can never afford one, and I won't be able to be offered the opportunity to buy one ever, but I do really like it. I think it's a solid home run from VC.
Yeah. Zenith, Chronomasters, and Precious Metals. Really like the rose gold. Really like the two-tone.
The two-tone one is probably my favorite out of all of them, because I just think that color looks really well. Works really well. But a little bit too much polish for me on the gold version.
A little too much of a blingy for a purposeful watch.
Yeah. Because the other ones were ceramic bezels, you know, like the stainless steel ones, and this one they opted for the all gold with a full all gold polished bezel, which, as we know, is going to be a scratch magnet. So there's a little bit of thought about wearability going forward, but
they're probably just copying Rolex, right? I mean, that's what everybody does.
That's what everybody does, you know.
Who else? IWC.
They were a little lackluster for me.
I like the look. I like the look of the colored chronos, but they're thick, man.
They are thick boys. Thick with 2 C's.
They released a third one though that's not too colorful. It's like a stealthy one. It's in some fancy material that I can't pronounce. Ceratanium.
Yeah.
But it's stealthy. It's a little thinner. It looks really good. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I saw their teaser stuff on social leading up to Watches and Wonders, and they had like these like giant like boxes like in the middle, like different locations, and one was like the Mojave Desert, one was Lake Tahoe, and then I guess one was like in a forest somewhere, and it was like the different ceramics, whatever. And I guess they partner with Pantone, like the official like color code company, to like create specific colors in this like monochromatic look. So there's some respect there, because I know like making ceramic colors is not very easy to do. especially not in a specific official color coded shade. But I was, just they look cool. Am I going to buy an all white ceramic military chronograph? No.
For 11 grand?
Definitely not. Again, for that price, I'm buying an ultra deep. Okay. Like that's just what it's going to be. That's my ultimate professional diving watch. And for a little bit more at 12.3, I'll buy the titanium. All right. Like that's where I'm at. That's where my head's at. But I liked them. I didn't dislike what IWC did.
Yeah.
It was honorable mention. Is it like something I want to actively promote? No. But I didn't dislike what they did.
And then there's Big Daddy Paddock.
Yeah. I know everyone's like foaming at the mouth about the new Paddocks. I'm just
I've seen two very different takes on this. Foaming at the mouth, or is this a Hamilton?
Yeah. The college, I mean, I will say this. If I was gonna buy a Paddock, that's kind of the Paddock that I would buy.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's bridging the gap between dress and everyday, and it also I think underscores the fact that that Paddock is trying to attract a youthful audience, and so they're kind of tweaking their styles a little bit to be less old grandpa dress watch and more, textural and colorful and doing something different. So I like that. I think it's good. But you never really own a Paddock.
Yeah,
you just look after it. For
they're still doing Paddock things, right? I think they put I think they put the annual calendar and the travel time in the same model.
Yeah, just banana stuff.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Because why not? Because reasons. It is what it is. But yeah, I just nothing that I'm like overly insane about. There was the Longa, the new Odysseus and titanium. That's cool. Will I ever see one? Will I ever own one? No, nope. It's fine. I'll be salty about it a little bit more. It's fine.
And so I guess with all that out of the way, we can proceed to Rolex.
Oh God, I was dreading this whole conversation the whole time.
So first off, they had a few, I don't want to say irrelevant drops, but some stuff that most people won't care about. A couple platinum day dates with ice dial, fun to look at. Nobody's ever going to get one that we know.
And like they introduced the fluted bezel. Like
apparently that's hard to do in platinum, but do I care? Not that much.
No.
Right. They gave you a couple Yacht Masters. I think one's in gold. Although the Falcon Eye dial is kind of cool. That was a nice touch.
So the Yacht Master in yellow gold now. Ooh, big change.
Even though the rose looks way better.
Yeah, even that watch with the black and the rose is
far it's one of my favorites.
But the Falcon's Eye dial, it's kind of like a textural, stony kind of looking thing. I like it.
I do too.
I like it. It was a surprise. Am I in love with it? No, because again, it's vaporware, it's hypeware. Like you'll just never see one. Somebody will own it, and it's probably gonna be Ellen DeGeneres and not me. And that's fine. But it's cool.
Air King got a mild bunch of updates.
Just absolutely disgraceful. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be brutally honest. This is what we do on Rich Cheese Radio. Like I'm gonna be brutally honest. I think everything that Rolex did this year was a complete and utter disaster. And I think anybody who says otherwise is feeding into the hype machine. Like the Falcon's Eye dial, cool, awesome. Yellow gold, okay, that was a logical next step. We already had it in white, we already had it in rose. Why not yellow, right? But if you're gonna sit here and tell me that this Air King with a new lacquer dial, slightly redesigned digits, with still one of the most ugly dials on the face of the earth, with now crown guards, somehow it's a better pilot watch, you're lying to yourself. You need to take a nice long look in a mirror and realize why you're a simp for Rolex.
Fanboy.
I don't even think it's fanboys at this point. You're a simp. That's literally what it is. I'm sorry. There's nothing that they released that was awesome. And then I know where you're going. I can see it on your face. Like, what is this? The GMT Master.
You
This
know
to
what it
me,
is? I'll tell you exactly what it is. This is the pieces that we always talk about. The weird one that they put out that everybody's like, this is terrible. And in 20 years, it's going to be $100,000.
oh, I already know that. But to me, this is also just a clear indication that Rolex hates you. Rolex hates you because you're clamoring to get a Pepsi. You're clamoring to get a Batman or a Batgirl, whatever the hell you want to get. You're on the wait list. You're trying to spend $100,000 on your at your AD so you can finally get a call for a steel sub, and they release this hot garbage. It's a left-handed GMT master. Okay, go ahead and try to set it. Go ahead and try to set it.
I wouldn't
you
hate
have
it
to set it upside down. Okay.
I wouldn't hate it if it was stupid. Just LHD, but the 9 date got me.
I just can't wait till these things go in for service, 15 years from now. And all of these Rolex watchmakers and technicians are going to reinstall the crystals backwards, and they're going to have to take them apart because they're so used to putting the Cyclops on the right side of the case and not the left side. Like I can already see it happening. It's like NASCAR drivers. All they do is turn left until you put them on a different track where they have to turn right and they'll crash because they can't do it. They've been doing it for too long. This GMT Master 2, whatever they're calling it, the Sprite or the Starbucks GMT,
the Destro,
the Destro. I mean, it's hot garbage. This is literally a slap in the face to anybody that is a Rolex collector, and this just tells you 100% definitively Rolex hates you. They do not care about you. They do not care about your business. They're going to release something so god awful. You're still going to clamor to get to your AD and get on a list because you're that dumb. This watch is horrible. Period.
Now let's just say it. All the people wearing the watches upside down today. It's not funny.
It's not. It's horrible. It's not funny. It's dumb. And again, try to set this watch. The moment that you try to set it, you're going to realize how stupid you are because you have to set it upside down. It's the only way to logically do it. I watched the guy, our friend Alexander Lintz on a Watch Advisor.
Alexander Lintz.
But he was holding it away from his body towards the camera so he could set it normally. It will not be that way when you're wearing this watch because you will literally have to flip the watch upside down so the crown is on the right-hand side so that you can set your time upside down. Because that's the only way your brain will logically be able to do this because you're not left-handed.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about it. This is a
left-handed watch that's designed for right-handed people or left-handed people, right? It's dumb. It's the dumbest watch I think Rolex has ever put out. And again, it just shows you how much they just don't care about you because they're going to put out this hot garbage and you're still going to want to buy it anyway. Mic drop. I'm done.
And I mean that, people.
I'm sorry. I've been festering all day and I've been waiting.
I know you have, but I just, people have asked me to like, first of all, I think it's funny. People ask me, should I get this thing? I'm like, good luck. But yeah, I'm like, are you like, what's your angle? Do you want a green GMT? Do you consider yourself?
No, they want to flip it.
But I'm saying, are you going to flip it? Do you consider yourself a big collector of like rare things? Because that's what, if I'm going to buy this, that's what I want it for. Is I want a rare Rolex because I don't see this sticking around very long, and I don't know when the next time you're ever going to get something like this again is. Right, so if you're like a rare,
I don't know, and I don't care. At this point, I'm so fed up with everything the Crown has to put out. I just, and then to further underscore how much they hate you, they discontinued the OP41 in Tiffany blue, and they got rid of the coral and the yellow in all sizes. So anybody that was on a waiting list for any of those watches, good luck. That Tiffany OP in 41 is going to be $100,000 before the end of the year. Which Sadly. Is the dumbest thing in the world. It is a watch that costs $6,000 or so retail, and it's going for $25,000 chrono as of yesterday. That's probably going to be $100,000 before the end of the year.
You could just get a Tiffany moon swatch.
$260, baby. And I will say this, it's kind of funny, but I think it's somewhat true and relevant. Somebody said it doesn't matter what anybody releases at Watches and Wonders this week. They will not beat the hype of the Moon Swatch.
And I gotta say, Swatch Group got him. That's why I captioned
I mean,
that meme. I said, who had Swatch in the March Madness bracket?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Nobody. Man, this one's probably going to piss off a lot of people. I'm okay with that. It's a hill I'm willing to die on.
That's all right. Hey, the little guy's got to win sometimes too.
Yeah, but it's just people need to stop feeding the beast. Let Rolex take the L's, guys, please. You're only buying into the BS. That's it. I'm done. I got nothing left.
Well, I think I think you're on to kind of a line of thinking that a lot of people are adopting now. I think as we talk to more and more people, I mean, I talk to plenty of people on the daily. I try to keep up.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I can't lie. My DMs have been kind of nuts lately, and I haven't been able to get to all of them. But, I do think you have people who are either fanboys or loyal customers or whatever you might call them that are they're just kind of over it. Like, I know a lot of people who are just over chasing. They're over competition. They're over feeling like they have to prove themselves or cater to someone to buy something that they have the money for.
Yeah, agreed.
And I would like to urge a lot of brands that are tiptoeing on this similar idea to not do that. And don't get me wrong, a lot of there are going to be plenty of models out there that are going to be low production, regardless of the brand, that are going to be hard to get, right? The Omega Snoopy, for example, right? Hard to get. That's going to happen. But for these brands that are kind of tiptoeing around that similar idea with what's going on a large portion of their inventory, keep in mind you're not Rolex, right? Only so many people can get away with that. Probably only them.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. They're the only ones that have been able to do what they can do. That's it. Period. I
mean, you have like a Patek, but I mean, they're Patek.
Yeah,
they don't make that many watches to begin with.
But that's my point, right? Rolex is making around 800,000 watches a year. They're close to 1 million, give or take. So they're still telling you can't get their watches. They make more watches than anyone in the world, besides maybe Apple, but that's not a real watch.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that doesn't leave a bad taste in people's mouths, but
well, and I will tell you this: I have a lot of colleagues and friends that are at Watches and Wonders, and the sentiment is telling me from them that everyone's extremely disappointed with what the Crown put out, but they have to save face, and they have to positively report, and they got to give it all the coverage it deserves because all of you fanboys out there want it.
Yeah, that is a big thing,
and stop lying to yourself. You hate it just as much as I do. You're only wanting it because of the novelty of the potential resellability if you can get your hands on it. It's a flex piece. And at the end of the day, the average Joe Schmo who probably wanted this watch because it would be the important watch for him, he'll never be able to get it. So that's why I say, and I will continue to say, Rolex hates you. They do not want you to own their watches. The blue-collar worker that built their business, they don't care about you anymore.
No.
It's done.
Yes, it
is. Move on. Find a new show.
And at this rate, don't make it Tudor.
Oh God. Yes, please. I've already seen collectors. Yeah, well, it looks like my brand is now Tudor. I'm like, just take me
out. Be careful. Be careful.
Just take me out back and put me down, dude. I'm done. On that note,
I was going to say, I think we're done here, to be honest.
On that note, we'll see if we get canceled after this episode. But there you go. There's my thoughts, feelings. Bro, thank you again, as always. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this 24th episode of Wrist Cheese Radio podcast. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring you a 25th if you guys don't utterly...
Quarter century mark. Coming up.
Utterly or metaphorically tomato stone us to death after this, especially me. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's good that I don't have a social media where you guys can follow me.
Yeah.
But regardless, thank you guys again for tuning in to this week's episode. We'll catch you on the next one, bro.
As always, a pleasure. Catch you on the flip side.